I'm now joined from the University of Japan by Seijiro Takeshita, who will discuss the shootings of Shinzo Abe with us. Mr. Takeshita, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
First of all, may I give our heartfelt condolences to the people of Japan over the killing of the former Prime Minister. Could you explain to us just how was this news initially heard and received in Japan on Friday?
Well, myself included, we were all godsmacked because, well, we don't have gun crimes in Japan, first of all. There were only one death from gun violence last year, and I think 4 the year before last. So you can safely say that, we don't have any gun crimes here in Japan. Right. And on top of it, as far as political glut is concerned, yes, we have a lot of arguments. We have a lot of, antagonism, amongst, several parties. But it doesn't go into maiming others or, certainly not, murdering, the opposition. It doesn't cause any bloodbath. That certainly isn't the methodology that's adopted over here. So, from whichever direction, this comes as a very, very awkward, item, especially considering that he had been the longest-serving prime minister for us. He contributed so much in the economy and foreign affairs and internal affairs as well. He has really led to build the plateau of what we are today. So it has simply become a shock for all of us in Japan.
And of course, the initial hours were full of hope that it might not end up being an assassination and that he may somehow be pulled through. But of course, now the nation is in mourning, and the next steps, I believe, regarding the funeral and so on, it will be Monday and Tuesday. There will be ceremonies. What can you tell us about Japan's mourning of Shinzo Abe?
Well, I'd say that we had the upper house election today, and as we're speaking right now, they're going to start opening up the votes. So I would say that the biggest obituary that we can give to Mr. Abe is to go out there and vote. I mean, this is the most democratic methodology of coping against these, horrid and, barbarous action, to prove that, this is a democratic nation and we will not kneel to these, barbarism, and these kind of acts. So, I would like to think that, the voting ratio will go up. And I think, I think there would be a lot of obituary votes that would come into the LDP, Liberal Democratic Party. And I think they will continue to sustain a stable majority.
And indeed, as you just mentioned, the polls closed, I think, about 9 minutes ago at 8 o'clock local time in Japan. Obviously, the events that Shinzo Abe was attending, speaking at on Friday, event almost sounds too big a name for it, because I was quite shocked when I saw the footage of the shooting to see that this was just on a street corner. Is this a normal sort of campaigning place for Turkish politicians?
Well, for the Japanese politicians, yes. I mean, this is quite a norm in the sense that, they try to basically speak directly to the voters. And in fact, they don't want to go up in the pedestal. They want to be in the same, right, well, I should say distance with the voters. But that's what they do. But that said, there is no doubt that there has been a big fault and series of fault by the Nara police, department in regards to his protection. The methodology of SPs, trying to protect him, which unfortunately didn't happen. So compared to, for example, the crisis management that's been done against these kind of terrorism act, like in the United States, this is probably will be seen like a very, very, immature, mistake that's been, multiplied. And this is very, very unfortunate from that point of view as well.
Indeed, the Nara police chief, Onizuka, has taken some level of responsibility for what happened on Friday. Gun violence, as you say, is incredibly low in Japan, but gun ownership as well. Would this be why the information is coming out? Would this be why the shooter created his own weapons? And also, if I can just tack onto that, there are also reports that at his home other weapons and explosives were also found. Well, what do you know about that so far?
Well, in Japan, the gun control are very, very strict. You have to go through the psychological test, paper test, the actual, shooting tests, and you have to renew the licenses every 3 years. Before that, the police will investigate and, in fact, question your family and even your friends, to make sure that you're liable and you do need a gun for whatever the reason. So basically, it's almost impossible for anyone really to obtain, at least a normal citizen, to own a gun. That is how strict it is, and thus it has led to a very, very low level of gun violence in Japan. It only happens virtually amongst the Yakuzas, which is the Japanese mobs, which happens 4 or 5 times a year, which sometimes involves the normal civilians, but hardly. So I think one of the reasons why the SPs and Nara police was so excessively relaxed was they didn't expect the gunshot to take place. A lot of these incidents take place by knives or machetes in Japan. So perhaps that was possibly another reason, although I don't think one can use that as a pretext. That may be the reason why they were so excessively relaxed and had their guards down in regards to protection of Mr. Abe.
Well, one report said that Yamagami had restrained from using the explosives at another, I assume, arena event because of the security that was there. So sadly, this seems to be a very unfortunate step in the history of Japan. But the domestic security, will have to change into the future.
Well, very true. I'd say this has been a very big wake-up call for many people, particularly in the police, regional police, that is, in particular, who have been extremely relaxed about these things. Obviously, nowadays with the diffusion of internet, there could be a possibility of a man, creating his own personal gun, which was, the case this time around. And because of such, excessive information flows that take place, it might be easy for these assassins to target their person that they're trying to maim. So I think we do need definitely an overhaul or overlook of the current situation and the way people are guarding these important VIPs.
Right. And just finally, I want to come back to today's election. The LDP had 55 seats, I believe, in the parliament, and if it has 60 of the 125 seats, it will gain a majority. Do you think that the killing of Shinzo Abe on Friday will have affected today's election? And how do you see the Parliament moving on from here?
Well, if anything, I think, firstly, there had been no real big, I'd say, complaint or, opposition, in regards to how the government is handling the current situation, which is, inflationary conditions that are happening on back of, Russian invasion in Ukraine. And also coping, with the wave of, COVID-19 that's coming again. The public aren't really particularly, excessively concerned, or at least they're not, basically complaining about how the government is doing. So I think there won't be, that much of a negativity. On the other hand, I think there will be what I would call obituary votes. In other words, votes for the LDP to basically, give some cheers or, give some backup to the LDP in regards to this barbarous act. So I think there is. I think it's safe to say that LDP and the coalition with Komeito will definitely gain a majority without any problem.
Well, let's hope that if the title of today's election was indeed the defence of democracy, let's hope that it is well defended into the future. Seijiro Takeshita, I want to thank you so much for joining us today here on Anews and giving us your expert opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.